Hello and welcome to lesson 5 on our online class, Preparing Your Dog for New Baby. This class is all focused on dog training, a little bit of baby training, a little bit of adult training probably as well. These types of skills we're going to focus on are going to help your dog to be a better housemate, to be more polite, and all of those things combined together will give you more peace of mind, and it will also help your dog be safer to live with your baby. So let's get into it. All right. In the first lesson, I don't know if you remember when we talked about mindset, we thought a lot about how we can shift our way of thinking and try to consider how the dog feels, what kinds of circumstances are part of a dog doing certain behaviors, what part do we play in that, what could we do differently. So when your dog undoubtedly at some point does something that you're not pleased with, such as taking your baby's toys, I'd like you not to instantly jump in and say, no, cut it out. I don't want you to do those things. I want you to rethink that approach. And what I would like you to do instead is ask for what you want. Okay. So again, asking for what you want instead of what you don't want. So instead of, no, cut it out. What I'd like you to do is think about, what could I ask the dog to do that is incompatible with the behavior that they're doing? So for example, if they're chewing on one of your baby's toys, then offer the dog one of their favorite toys instead. So if they're chewing on a bone or if they're chewing on a special squeaky toy, then they can't be chewing on your baby's toys at the same time, right? If they're jumping and you're worried they're going to knock down the baby who's learning to stand for the first time, then we can ask our dog to do something that requires all of their feet to be on the floor. That would be incompatible with jumping. So the dog can't jump if it's busy doing something different. So one of the things that we'll be addressing in this lesson is some different activities that your dog can do instead of doing things that are naughty. All right. One thing that can be really tricky, of course, when you are living in a family with a dog is that some dogs ask for attention inappropriately. So what do I mean by that? Well, so let's say you are trying to enjoy a family meal and the dog comes up to you and puts their nose up on the table. Or what if they poke you with their nose, or they paw you, or they bark at you because they think you're going to give them some food, right? That would be pretty inappropriate. Same would be true if you were trying to feed the baby, right? You're trying to feed the baby, and if your dog paws you or barks at you, that's obviously going to be disruptive both to you and to the baby as it's trying to enjoy a meal. So what we want to do is we want to ask the dog to do other behaviors instead, or to ask for behavior appropriately, right? So one thing that a lot of people like to teach their dog is to say please to get attention. And what I mean by saying please is they can sit quietly and politely at your feet and wait, and then you can offer them attention, right? So the dog is being nice. They're saying please, they're being super appropriate, and then you can reward them for that. So later on, when your kiddos get older, I like to translate this into a freeze dance game with your kiddos where we're busy and we dance. And then when the music stops, everyone goes still, including the dog. And when the dog goes still, the dog gets a treat. So you can play that game with your dog. It's kind of fun, especially if no one's around to watch how silly you feel and are acting and looking when you're dancing around your house with your dog. But you can start rewarding your dog for calm behavior. This helps your dog to ask for attention appropriately. All right, so you may be wondering, what kind of skills should my dog have before the baby arrives? What do we need to know? And for those of you whose baby isn't there yet, hopefully you can take advantage of this time. Now, I don't want you to lose faith or get frustrated and feel like, oh my gosh, my baby's already here. There's no way I can teach all these behaviors now that I'm juggling. But you can. I've been teaching my puppy. He just is about 6 months old. And even in the past 2 weeks, we've probably learned 5 new tricks. And all you have to do is spend about 3 minutes at a time to work on each new behavior. A handful of treats, which could be part of the breakfast or dinner, and it all works super efficiently. So just work on one thing at a time. Now, the idea is we want to reward the behavior that we like. And I like to use a marker word, which is essentially saying yes every time my dog does exactly what I ask. So if I say sit, the instant the tush hits the floor, I say yes. Now, some people like to use a clicker for training, and a clicker is fine. But when you're parenting a baby, your hands are going to be pretty full. So using a verbal marker is pretty nice because you have your voice with you all the time. If you want to use a clicker, that's great. It just means you're more coordinated than most people, so you can handle the baby and the clicker at the same time. But regardless, I will have a video link for you to show you what it looks like to use a marker and why you would want to use one. That's part of this lesson. And you use this as you teach your dog new tricks. So as soon as they do what you want, you make sure you say yes, and then you have to pay them with a treat every time you say yes. Now, we have a dog here. His name is Snoopy, and he had an owner that was older, and Snoopy was extraordinarily active. And so we really needed to teach him a mat behavior because his mom was getting scratched up and overwhelmed and frustrated because he was sort of a spaz. And so what we did is we had a special mat that she moved around the house with her, and she kept it put away until she needed it. And when she finally would need a rest and need Snoopy to calm down, we put the mat on the floor and Snoopy learned to lay on it, right? And that's a really fun behavior to teach. I have a very brief video showing you what that looks like when I was raising my service puppy. And it shows her being kind of silly. Now, in that video, and this is important, we were actually outside in my driveway. And it's really important that you practice in boring places first before you go outside, because the more distractions there are, the harder it is for a dog to do a new behavior. So with all of these in this list that you see here, you need to start in a quiet room, in a boring space. You need to then, when that dog gets it, then you need to maybe move to a different room, maybe turn on some music, maybe turn on the TV, maybe step outside on your deck, start to add distractions slowly before you expect all of these behaviors to work really well. I call them out in the wild, right? So you're going to work with them slowly, carefully, methodically, and add distractions. You'll notice that with my service puppy, a couple times she stops and thinks about it because there's a lot of stuff going on. And that was the first time we were working in the driveway. We obviously want your dog comfortable on a leash because you're probably going to want to take your dog places while you have your baby. You're either going to wear your baby at first, or if your dog is comfortable with a stroller or some other carrying device, you will be pushing the baby in a stroller, let's say, and the dog has to walk politely at your side. The last thing we need is for your leash to get stuck in the wheels and have everybody freak out and get afraid or have the stroller get knocked over. If you're wearing your baby, it's really important that your dog not pull you over because you have your precious cargo on you. So we need to make sure that we've got some appropriate leash walking skills. Mat skills, of course. Recall is important. If you are ever in doubt if your dog will come to you or not, then have a leash on your dog. It's really easy. They come in all different lengths. I highly recommend getting something called a long line, which can be anywhere from 15 feet to 30 feet long. It's a lot to manage, but they're super. They allow your dog to feel like they're free, but you still have a handle on them so you can reel them in if they're not really listening or coming when you ask them to. If they're not coming when you ask them to, please don't assume they're being defiant. It's likely that they're just finding other things that are more interesting to do out and about at the other end of that leash. So what you need to do is you need to find a way to get more exciting and make sure you have delicious treats with you all the time when you're working on a recall. All right, we definitely want your dog to get comfortable in a crate or in a pen or behind a baby gate. Now, you don't have to crate train your dog. That's totally up to you. I feel that a lot of people confine their dogs more than they should. But a crate is a really nice tool if your dog is being inappropriate and needs a place to calm down. Same thing with a pen or behind a baby gate. Any of these things that provide a restriction of where the dog can go will help your dog to settle. It also teaches your child over time that we have boundaries that we respect, and that when the dog is on the other side of those boundaries, we do not bother them. Now, it's really, really important if your dog is in a crate that is absolutely a no-go zone. The crate is not a little fort for your kids. It's not a place for them to rest and lay down. And it is certainly not a place to snuggle with the dogs. Dogs don't like to feel trapped. And if somebody crawls in there with them, we don't know what kind of behavior your dog is going to do. So I want your crate and your dog bed to both be absolutely, precious places that are off limits. You're going to probably need to drop it, because there is a very good chance that the dog will eventually take something it's not supposed to have, such as on a good day, maybe a smelly sock, maybe on a bad day, a dirty diaper. That could get really gross. Toys, food, all kinds of things. Now, a drop is different from a leave it, right? A drop it is, I already have it. I want you to spit it out. And you can teach that by trading. And I'll give you a good link to a video that can teach you how to get your dog to drop things. Leave it is don't pick it up in the first place. So those are two different things. You don't want to say leave it to a dog who already has something in its mouth. You want to say leave it if they're looking at something and you don't want them to pick it up. So let's say by accident you drop a poopy wipe or something on the floor when you're changing a diaper, and you do not want your dog to pick it up, and you see them looking at it, say leave it, then they should not pick it up. They should look away. They could move away, but you can always give them something else instead as a reward, because certain things are really tempting. Okay, door manners are going to be really important because everyone's going to want to come over and see your baby. So you're going to also have probably more delivery drivers coming to your house. So you're going to be getting maybe meals delivered. You're going to be getting gifts in the mail. And of course, visitors will be coming over because new babies are amazing. And so people are going to come over. So there's a variety of things that you can work on with your dog. You can teach your dog to go to a mat or to a crate from a distance. So for example, you can send your dog to a crate when you hear somebody knock on the door. You say, go crate, and the dog goes, and you can teach them to stay there until the guest has arrived, and then you can release the dog. Or you can leash your dog, right? There's a variety of things that you can do to help your dog not dash out the door, not get hit by a car, not knock over grandparents who are trying to come in the house. We really want to teach respectful behaviors. I can help you with all of these things over video. I can do coaching. So if you feel overwhelmed, you've got me, okay? You can book an appointment. It's awesome. Find It is really fun. You send the dog away to go pick up a treat, and you reward them when they give you attention and look back at you. This is great because sometimes you really need to get their attention off of something like a squirrel or somebody on a scooter or, a skateboard or something. But then you want their attention back on you. And then tricks are so much fun. Tricks are great for dogs. They really enjoy doing them. They're a great distraction. If the dog is doing something inappropriate, then you can turn it into a play session and say, hey, let's do these tricks instead. Again, alternate behaviors. These are really super because they are fun to do. They make everybody happy. And then the dog stops doing whatever you didn't want it to do in the first place. All right. Both of these dogs were working on new skills. The dog on the left in the crate was afraid of the crate when we started working together, and we played some games to help her be comfortable. That crate became her safe place. She has a toddler at her house, and the toddler is not allowed to go near the crate. And so the dog chooses to go there to get a break. And then Buster on the right had very exuberant door manners, and we really had to work on some behaviors to help him not knock over grandparents when they came to visit. Because when we started working together, they were pregnant, and then they had their baby, and he is a big boy with a lot of energy. So both of these behaviors were useful. We've also used the mat behavior with Buster when they were feeding their baby who started eating solid foods, and he started making a big mess. And we wanted Buster to wait before he was able to clean up the food mess all over the high chair and the floor. Okay, so training does apply to kids too. Not all kids are instantly going to be happy when you put them in a play yard or a pen or anything like this. So it takes some time and some practice, and you need to reward your kiddos for good behavior just as you would reward your dog. This dog also had a lot of crate training under its belt. And when the mom sent the dog to the crate, he certainly went right in. Okay, so both the dogs and the kiddos can benefit from this. And if you have something you've got to do, like switch the laundry or sit on the toilet or whatever, it's really useful to know, again, going back to our management lesson, that you have somewhere where you can ask the kids and the dogs to go so that you know that there can be no negative contact between the two of them. All right, context matters. I love these pictures. These are two of my dad clients. They both had dogs and they were both pregnant. Well, the dads weren't pregnant, but the families were pregnant. And I wanted to make sure that the dogs listened to the dads, even when they look different. Now, you might be wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So if you're pregnant, of course, the woman changes shape, right? Her body changes shape and has lots of different pheromones that are, exuded from you throughout pregnancy. And so your body changing shape is no surprise to the dog because they're seeing it happen. But the dads generally, unless they're sympathy eating with you, they don't change shape very much. And yet at the same time, the dads at some point, or partners, this could be a non-pregnant spouse of any gender, they're going to put on a baby carrier and help out around carrying the baby, and they're going to look different all of a sudden. And so it's really important that you practice this with your dog. Will your dog still listen to you when you look funky, when you look different than you normally do? So in this case, I had both of these dads put on the baby carriers. It was really fun. We unwrapped them together and got them all fitted and put them on and stuffed them full of things. Now you can stuff them full of stuffed animals. You can put pillows in there. You can do all kinds of things. You can try to make them heavy. You can put some things in there that are heavy, like a book or water bottles or whatever, because a baby is heavy and you're going to be awkward. So the heavier it is, the more realistic it is in terms of how your body position might change when you are wearing the baby. And then we need to find out if the dog will comply with basic cues to do different behaviors while you look different than usual. So will your dog still sit? Will your dog still wait, down, stay, go to the crate, do whatever you need it to do for safety? Because ultimately, all of the adults in the house are going to wear the baby at some point or carry the baby. Again, that changes how you look. And we want to practice that before the baby shows up. So this is kind of fun. So, and it's a silly activity, but it's really fun for the non-pregnant spouse. And if you're adopting for both of you, this activity is for everyone, whether you're pregnant or not, to see how your shape changes. Again, you're going to also, which I'll show you in a second, you're going to also do this with other equipment as well. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to break training into steps, and we need to know our dog. Is our dog going to be afraid? Is our dog a nervous dog? If they are nervous, let's say of the stroller, then we would start with the stroller on the other side of the house. And we would get closer and closer as the dog became more comfortable. We would not instantly expect the dog to be able to walk nicely next to the stroller without any practice. So first you would make sure the dog is okay with the stroller being still. Then you need to make sure that the dog is okay with the stroller moving around just a little bit back and forth. Then you can just start to push the stroller around the house and have the dog follow you. You can drop treats behind you, Hansel and Gretel style, and leaving a little trail of treats, and have the dog come and see that it's okay to move around a stroller that is moving. Then eventually you'll go on walks with the dog with the empty stroller. So in this case, she was still pregnant. And we were practicing. We were building him up and practicing how was he going to be with the stroller. And it's better to find this out in advance because we don't want the dog to freak out and panic and pull you or pull the baby when, especially if you're sore or whatever, when you're out and about with the baby out in the wild, out of the house. So first we work on leash skills alone. Then we work on comfort with the stroller and the stroller alone. And then we combine the two. I want you to remember to pace yourself here and don't just assume, all right, we just got the stroller in the mail. Let's unpack it and take the dog for a walk. You may be going too fast for your dog, and we really want this to be successful. Okay, so again, another reminder, friendly reminder, you've got to start with your training at home, different rooms of the house, different parts of the house, the deck, the patio, the backyard, then the driveway, then the porch, whatever, before you go out into the wild. This is little Kai, and his dogs were remarkably well trained. Both of them, notice, off leash in a super distracting environment. They are not running away. They are with him doing tricks because they've built this pattern of behavior. Excuse me, my dog sees something outside. This pattern of behavior over a long period of time, and they have built trust and this solid relationship. So again, remember, distractions make everything harder than when things are calm and peaceful. Okay, your assignment. So back in the second lesson, I gave you an assignment that asked you to plan for things, plan for challenges, plan for different sets of circumstances that might be tricky for your dog. And I want you to go through and make sure that you address any of the dog training skills that would make any of your management strategies easier to implement, and then train them. And then I would love to hear from you. So please email me, send me a video of your dog doing a new behavior, and tell me how it has helped make your life safer and easier with baby. All right, this is it. Please, if you enjoyed this class, thought it was useful, please tell a friend about it. I think this is such a useful pool of information that families who have kids and dogs would find useful for families who are pregnant or adopting. I have another online class called Parenting Toddlers and Dogs. Once your kids get mobile, we have an entirely new set of challenges. That's usually when families call me and need extra help. I'm happy to help all of you. I do video consults so I can support you. If your friends use the coupon code FRIEND, they will get 10% off of any of my online classes. Feel free to tell your birth class people, your birth class teacher, your adoption groups, any of your Facebook friends who are either pregnant or adopting or who have toddlers and dogs. And let's get the word out about how we can improve safety and your sanity at home as you're parenting kids and dogs at the same time. I have enjoyed this. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much.